As a premier community in Hampton Roads, James City County strives to maintain a high quality of life for all citizens through sound fiscal management and legislative actions. In an ongoing effort to increase transparency, your Board of Supervisors holds public meetings to garner citizen input before making important decisions. Here is tonight's meeting agenda. Stay tuned. The Board of Supervisors meeting will begin shortly.
Call to order this meeting of the James City County Board of Supervisors for a regular meeting. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. McGlennon?
Here.
Mr. McGlennon represents the Roberts District. Ms. Larson?
Here.
Ms. Larson represents the Berkeley District. Mr. Hipple?
Here.
Mr. Hipple represents the Powhatan District and is Vice Chair to the Board. Mr. Eisenhower?
Here.
Mr. Eisenhower represents the Jamestown District as Chair of the Board. Sitting to my left is Adam Kinsman, County Attorney. I'm Scott Stevens, County Administrator, and it's my pleasure to be Clerk to the Board.
We need a motion to allow Ms. Sadler to participate remotely due to an ongoing medical issue that has prevents her attendance.
So moved.
So moved. Mr. Stevens, call the roll.
Mr. McGlennon?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Hipple?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. And Sue, are you on? Can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can. Thank you.
Wonderful. You got a good, clear connection tonight. Okay, we will
Good.
next
You,
moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance, flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have presentations this evening, and I will start out with, if I can get the right one in front of me here. Our first will be presentation for Proclamation for Francis Baker Day. Whereas longevity of life is a blessing for an individual and for a community which benefits from the knowledge, creativity, and experiences this individual brings to all. And whereas Mrs. Frances Bingley Baker will celebrate her 100th birthday on September 17th, 2020. And whereas Ms. Baker was born in 1920 in New Kent County, and after marrying in 1940 moved to James City County and has lived in the same house on Magruder Lane. Whereas Ms. Baker is the mother of 2 children, Cindy and Richard, and grandmother to 4 children, great-grandmother to 2 children. And whereas Mrs. Baker has been a lifelong member of Williamsburg Baptist Church, where she taught Sunday school for many years. And whereas Ms. Baker worked at the family store, Bingley's, in York County, which was just across Penniman Road, where she experienced the first daylight savings time, and recounts that one county was on daylight savings time and the other was not, which made for an interesting summer living and working in both counties. And whereas the Board of Supervisors wishes to recognize Ms. Baker for her compassion and her generosity of spirit, and to honor Ms. Baker for her long life and prosperity, and wish her many more. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the James City County Board of Supervisors that the 17th day of September be and hereby is proclaimed as Francis Baker Day in the County of James City. I hereunto set my hand that caused this seal of the county to be affixed this 8th day of September 2020. And I've signed that, and I don't believe there's anyone from the family here tonight, but we will make sure that that is 100 years, a nice goal for everybody to shoot for. Okay, our second is a retirement presentation, and I'm going to read that here, and then I'm going to come down and we will do the presentation down here. This is for Dwight Brooks. Actually, I didn't realize it's just the certificate, so we're going to have the presentation by Reese Boone is going to do presentation for us. I will bring the certificate down.
Okay. Mr. Dwight Brooks joined James City County as a custodian 20 years ago. He was assigned to the rec center where we receive over 500,000 visitors annually. As you know, the recreation center is open 7 days a week, and I believe if Dwight would have the time to work every day, he would have. When Dwight was hired, the custodial services division did not have modern equipment that it has now. Dwight and others maintain 84,000 square feet by hand. So if you can imagine what a great undertaking it was to mop the entire rec center by hand each night. He has been instrumental in selecting the proper equipment, products that are required to maintain a safe and happy environment for our citizens. Due to Dwight's longevity with the division, he has played a lead role in training and educating new staff members on the operation of the custodial division, particularly our custodial services coordinators, making for smooth transitions. When Legacy Hall opened, Dwight again played a major role ensuring each customer received top-notch experience at our facility, no matter what the occasion. There have been approximately 2,600 events over the years at this facility, and Dwight has been involved in most of them. If we experience a major weather event and had to open a shelter, Dwight was the first one to volunteer to work the overnight shift, making sure our citizens had what they needed while they were in our care. Dwight is a kind gentleman who loves to laugh, tell jokes and stories, but above all, enjoys helping people. He will be remembered for all his hard work and dedication to James City County. I want to share with you some of the things his co-workers have said about him. Dwight has always been someone we could rely on, an inspiration and role model to other employees. He always seems to have a smile on his face no matter the situation. We worked together for months during the pandemic, and they were some of the best times. He was a pleasure to work with, and I will miss him a lot. It is evident that he cares a lot about his job and respects his supervisors. JCC and JCSA would benefit by having more employees like him. His supervisors are glad that others have been able to experience his dedication, above all, his kindness. They will miss him and his outstanding customer service. In the years I've been here, he's been very helpful and a welcoming sight whenever there were functions at the rec center that he was assisting with. Known as the mayor of the recreation center, both patrons and employees know the pride he takes in the facility. Dwight knows most patrons and employees by name. Dwight will truly be missed and extremely difficult to replace. His inspiration and mentorship will carry on for many, many years. Congratulations on a wonderful career and best wishes for the next phase. It has been our pleasure to know you and to work with you. And so thank you for everything.
Certificate of service and appreciation for Dwight. I've got to echo one thing. Every time I went into the facility over there, I always met this man. And I think the title of mayor of the rec center is absolutely perfect, because there isn't a person that walked in that didn't know you or you knew them. And that's the kind of service that we want to give our citizens. Thank you so much. Thank you. Stand right.
Chair, you let Dwight would say a word.
But first thing, take your mask down. But first thing I wanted to say, good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
And I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for what y'all have done to invite me for my years of 20 years service. I thank my supervisors for coming out with this busy time. So my daughter will come up, and my grandson. anyway, I'm not going to talk anymore, but I just want to thank y'all for what y'all have done. James City County has been a great county to work for. It's been great people working in James City County. And I'm going to say that we got one of the best board of supervisors in James City County.
Okay, I think we have one more presentation or proclamation. And do we have two folks here for this proclamation? Yes. Okay. I will read the proclamation, then we'll invite the folks up for the presentation of it. This is a proclamation on the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, was passed on July 26, 1990 to ensure the civil rights of citizens with disabilities. And whereas the ADA has expanded opportunities for Americans with disabilities by replacing barriers and changing perceptions and increasing full participation in community life. And whereas James City County, Virginia affirms the principles of equality and inclusion for persons with disabilities as set forth for the Commonwealth of Virginia and as embodied in the ADA, the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the ordinances of James City County. And whereas the ARC of Greater Williamsburg and other organizations in Greater Williamsburg and the Commonwealth of Virginia work with constituents and communities to bring forth the promise and hope and freedom that is envisioned by the passage of the ADA. And whereas July 26, 2020 celebrates the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And on behalf of all James City County residents, I proudly recognize the many accomplishments made by our citizens with disabilities, as well as their contributions to the community. And now, therefore, be it resolved that I, James Eisenhower Jr., Chairman of the Board of Supervisors of James City County, Virginia, do hereby extend greetings and best wishes to all observing the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and encourage all citizens to join us in recognizing and celebrating the progress that has been made by reaffirming the principles of equality and inclusion, and to continue advocating for full inclusion and equity of individuals with disabilities in all aspects of society. In witness whereof I have set my hand and caused the seal of the County of James City, Virginia to be affixed this 8th day of September, 2020. And I believe we have Pam McGregor from, great, Pam. All right. Do you have the mic for a few minutes if you would like to say a few words?
Honored.
And then we'll
Okay.
for you.
Save you. Okay. Whew, got to be unmasked. Well, good evening, everyone. I don't have a big, long speech prepared. I just want to simply say thank you for acknowledging the ADA. When President George H.W. Bush read, "Let the shameful walls of exclusion finally come tumbling down," it was a turning point for Americans with disabilities. We have a long ways to go, but this county and the surrounding counties that work with the ARC have made a huge effort in including our families, and they appreciate it. So on behalf of the ARC, thank you, and thank you for this honor tonight.
For everything you
Thanks
do.
for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you
Chairman, I
very
get
much.
to talk.
We have.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That's right.
Okay, the next is a presentation from the Clean County Commission, the FY20 annual report of Grace Boone. I am so glad to see Grace is going to send the A team.
I'm glad to get this off. Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Kinsman. I'm Peg Borman, 17 Settlers Lane, co-chair of the Clean County Commission.
And I'm Emma Zara Newman. Nice to see everyone again. I live at 6520 Revere Street, and I represent the Jamestown District currently.
And I want to say thank you to the board and members of the county and different ones that sent me all the cards and the phone calls and the flowers and the prayers and good wishes during my incapacitation. Where is my slideshow?
One right up.
Is it? Okay, well, we're here to give you the annual report for the Clean County Commission. And if we can get this.
Yep.
Okay, I want to introduce the members of the commission, Emma and myself, Charles Lauderman, who is with Berkeley, Mark Myron, who went off in July. He's represented Berkeley. Kevin Radcliffe is in Roberts. Alexa Faithful, now she just got married, is with Jamestown, and Tin Winstanley is with Roberts. And we have two new members that y'all just appointed, Rachel West with Berkeley and Glenn Carter with Roberts. And I hate to say this, we still need somebody from Powhatan. I'm working on it, just in case you haven't noticed, but anyhow.
Yeah, she started beating up on me, and now we got 3 from Roberts.
Well, now I got 3 from there. Anyway, that's all right. We can take as many as you want, so.
Okay, so I wanted to let everyone know about a great project that we've kind of helped assist with so far this year, and it's called Recyclopedia. It is a part of our website through our county server, where citizens can go and search up recyclables and find out if they're acceptable or not with our new recycling program. So this is something that we've designed and implemented as Keep James City County Beautiful volunteers, and we're pretty proud of it, and hopefully it gets some use. It's constantly being updated and revised and tweaked so that it's supposed to be as updated as possible to help citizens understand what's recyclable and what's not, so we can all make informed decisions. Another thing that we've been working on with Another thing we've been working on with the Keep James City County Beautiful is the Straw Free campaign, where we've had our volunteers visiting all different restaurants to try and get them to pledge to get rid of straws in the restaurants, and we've been doing a really great job with that. And a lot of local businesses have stepped forward to help eliminate this plastic that ends up so often ending up in our waterways. So we're really pretty proud of that. That was launched in July 2019 and had a very successful year with that so far. Another thing that has been going on with our businesses is our quarterly Clean Business Award. Our third quarter winner in 2019 was Trader Joe's. Our first quarter winner of 2020 was Charlie's Airport Restaurant, and our fourth quarter winner for 2019 was First Watch. And the application can be found online if anyone knows of a business that they would like to nominate or encourage to apply. We're always looking for great businesses to endorse and promote.
We haven't had one since March. The Good Neighbor Grant awardees for fiscal year 20 was Adams Hunt, The Point at Jamestown, Windsor Forest, and Seasons Trace. There's an application currently online with this for fiscal year 21. They're due back by September 15th. We have extended that by 15 days. We still will fund this. There are still funds available, but due to the budget cuts, we may not be able to give as much as we have in the past. Just want to let you know that little disclaimer there. We participated in National Night Out with the police and fire departments on August 6, 2019. What's the next one? Okay. We have I'm confused here. with the suggestion of Mrs. Sadler about signs that was over in New Kent County, which seemed to be catching everybody's eye, we designed 5 different messages with 4 for each district. And they keep James City clean, have pride, don't litter. James City is too good to trash, but we're not trying to incite riots as it was speculated today. Put trash in its place, and the littering is illegal. Now these are put out in each one of the districts and will be left there for about 6 weeks, and then we'll change them to another area so that we can try to get this awareness out so that maybe people at least know that we're trying to keep James City clean. I hope if you see them, you don't think that we're littering like Mr. Mr. Kinsman thinks we're not trying to. They're there.
So as far as our community education outreach events, we had a couple of great events this year. One great one was our Hornsby Middle School recycling event. This was an event where we had volunteers show up daily for a week to Hornsby Middle School to help educate the students during their lunchtime about acceptable recyclables, hoping that we can spread more information about our new recycling program, what's recyclable, and kind of preparing students and teachers maybe for one day making sure that there is recycling in the cafeteria for a long term whenever that's possible. Probably my personal favorite event that we had was the Jamestown Beach Cleanup. We sort of merged the Riverfest event with our annual beach cleanup, and it was great because we recruited a lot of new volunteers. We're pretty young and fun, and we had a great time, and we got the kids involved, and I think that it was kind of new for us, where usually we go out there and engage kids through games and let the adults do the trash pickup, but then we brought our grabbers and we brought our vests, and we had them all running around the place to play. It was spotless by the end of the day. So that was a lot of fun, pretty successful event.
We also participated in the Harvest Fest at Chickahominy Park, and that was a lot of fun because it was a lot of people came with that with their kids, and we had events activities for the kids to do. We also participated at Chickahominy Day on October the 26th. 2019 Litter and Recycling Day was held on November the 9th, and it was in conjunction with the National America Recycles Day. It's held on November 15th. It was held at Johnny Pond and the Convenience Center, and we had about 150 people attending. And Gone for Good Shredding Company was the hit of the day, and we quickly realized that we have outgrown that venue. Adopt a Spot. Adopt a Spot is a very valuable program for the county. We have locations now that are being maintained by individuals or groups, and they're on Centerville Road, and out at Jamestown High School. Anyway, you'll see those signs around. I went in the claw circle. You'll see those signs around. Keep James City Beautiful is a group of volunteers that performs tasks of litter pickup as well as beautification projects. And at the January meeting, we were fortunate to have our newly elected board member, Greg McDowell.
And we are continuing to keep the volunteers for Keep James City County Beautiful engaged virtually through our newest sort of education outreach program called the Stewardship Hour. It's a monthly meeting where we'll meet over Zoom, and we'll invite an expert on a particular topic to tell us about this environmental stewardship topic, how we can all be better stewards of our county. And then the real focus here is on action. So we provide citizens or volunteers with 5 types of action that they can take. So, for example, something they can do on their own, or something that they can do that's a little bit more, community oriented. Let's meet up and plant a pollinator garden. That's a little bit more involved, a little longer lasting. So that's something we've launched a couple months ago now. We've already had the topics of pollinators. We had the topic last month of school and residential recycling. And this month we'll be talking a little bit about convenience centers and this year's litter and recycling expo to make sure people are aware of what we have going on and what they can do about solid waste in a sustainable way. Okay, for Keep James City County Beautiful, we have 3 overarching campaigns that are continuing. Our first is the recycling education. We've sort of internally named this the 3 R's campaign. It's reduce, reuse, recycle. It's a little more than just recycling. But the main events we've had here is working with public schools to increase education about recycling, as well as a survey that we've started and kind of tested out on a little less than 100 people to sort of get an idea of what citizens would like to have programming for, what are the misconceptions out there. And due to the pandemic, we weren't able to push that to the larger scale that we would like to, but we have plans to push that survey that we've now had in beta for a while out to the public to learn more about how we can strategically plan our events and plan our outreach. The Zero Tolerance for Litter campaign is continuing. It's strong. We've been planning to start a litter pickup loaning kit so that people could kind of pick up their own neighborhoods, but we can keep a distance that's appropriate. The last thing is the community beautification has been continuing with Adopt a Spot and those landscape common areas and roadside wildflowers. And we have some volunteers who are starting to get involved with planting pollinator gardens at Veterans Park and have a lot of interest in helping out with other parks as well.
I don't know if that is the next one. I'm going to go off script a little bit here. On January 24th, we had 6 volunteers who did a litter index survey for the county. And we used the 5 watersheds and to gauge this survey, not based on each precinct, but Roberts District, Skiffs Creek, and then we started up, that was the watershed there. And we was up 1.82% of the litter over last year's 1.37. We covered Watford Lane down into Grove area and the Government Road. The Powhatan watershed was 1.76% over last year's 1.53%. That was Jamestown, Monticello, Long Hill, and part of Centerville, including Forest Glen. Ware Creek watershed was 1.80% over last year's 1.22%. That was from Newman Road, Croker Road, Stonehouse, and to the county line. Diaskin Creek watershed was 2.28% over last year's 1.44%. And that was from Barnes Road, Diaskin Road, Forge Road, Cranston Mill Pond, and Centerville. I'd like to give a shout out at this time to Mr. Steve Dwight, who has been out cleaning up Cranston Mill Pond, and it looks so good. Berkeley and part of Powhatan was in Gordon's Creek, and that was 1.58% over the 1.23% last year. Jolly Pond from Brickbat Road to Route 5, First Colony, Green Springs, and then back to Centerville. So I say overall, I got all kinds of comments here, but I'm not going to go over them. But I say overall, our county is about the same, judging from the 4 years that we've been doing this. This year's areas have shown a little bit of increase, but we're trying to stay on top of most of the illegal dumpings. Citizens have been informing us of these dumps and so forth, and I've been trying to get on top of those since I was out for about 8 weeks, so I didn't get to go around checking on them. So somebody's had to call me about them. But with the help of our citizens, we are trying to make our county cleaner than what it was. And I hope that the citizens will keep on calling and letting us know when these dumping areas occur. And we just had one in the Grove area, which we pushed that off on VDOT because it was so nasty. I wasn't going to clean it up. So Arbor Day, 50th year celebration for Earth Day anniversary, both had to be canceled, as well as Fido Fest, Jamestown Beach cleanup, and all the other events that we normally would participate in. The spring cleanup group, there were several participating groups before the lockdown came in March, and the cleanup day was scheduled for March 27th in conjunction with the Great American Cleanup Campaign. But we will be having a new as she said, we're launching a new program at the expo, and that's going to be the litter blending kit. The meetings of the commission has continued by telephone conference calls and Zoom meetings, and so we haven't missed anything yet, and I didn't miss any either. I was able to get on. I couldn't talk, but I was on there. I want to let you know that we are free labor and willing to be of service. These are very stressful times, I know, but I urge you to use our commission whenever possible. Most of us have been doing this job for a mighty long time, seems like. We're willing to help where there's a need and to solve the litter and recycling problems in the county. So all you have to do is just let us know, and we're here to help. Now we have question and answers. Any questions or answers?
I don't have a question, I have a comment, just to thank you both very much and the whole commission for all the good work you've been doing. Peg and Emma, your enthusiasm and your commitment is just contagious. It's fantastic. I think I met Emma's father, who came in from out of state, was it?
New Jersey.
New Jersey, right, to help out with the event back in November. I think everybody who sees the work that you're doing appreciates it and maybe takes a little bit more care to pick up a little bit extra litter and keep the county looking good. So thank you very much. And it's great to see you back, Peg.
It's a family affair with both of us.
So thank you both. I'm disappointed that some percentages were up, but I'm grateful that somebody's willing to go out and let us know that. We have to do better. Litter drives me absolutely crazy because we have such a beautiful place that we live in.
Absolutely.
So why you would want to trash it, I have no idea. So I just cannot express my thanks enough for what you're doing. I was interested to see the straw thing. I've missed that, I guess. And I'm a straw user, so but I've been trying to get better with college age kids that admonish you every time you use a straw unless it's paper. But so I'd love to know more about that. And I also found the topics that you're talking about that you're covering seem very interesting. So I don't know if there's any way for us to be able sometimes to get in on that Zoom or not, but I would welcome the opportunity to hear some of those topics that you're talking about. So
we've actually connected with the folks with the public access channel. So our stewardship hour is accessible there. The first one's already ready to go. The second one, I just need to respond to an email.
Okay, great. I really, that sounds,
that's
what
available for
interesting
everyone.
topics. And so I just appreciate it very much. And Peg, you're a wonder. I mean, to go through something like you did physically and to still give time to our county and to something like this really says a lot about you, not only your physical determination, but your mental determination as well. So I'm grateful. So I'm glad you're here. So
I'm happy to do it.
yeah. Thank both of you.
Thank you. Thank you both. It's amazing what you've done through the years, Peg, and glad to see everything's going well and you're haven't missed a beat through everything you've been through. So we appreciate it very much. And I know it's been, a little tough and to get through but we want to thank you for everything you do and keep up the good work.
And I did want to tell you that I saw some assistance from VDOT the other day. Some of these signs that are not legal were sitting out in the right of way. VDOT came along with their mower, and they had a really, really good mower because they went right across that sign and shredded it just like a shredder.
One of ours?
Yeah, no, it wasn't one of yours, but it was,
No,
it was one of the signs that shouldn't be there. And I was amazed that it was so finely shredded that it didn't look like we had any litter still left.
Litter everywhere.
So maybe we need to involve VDOT in some
Well,
of
we
that.
tried to put them where I got the mowing schedule.
Yes.
And we tried to put them where they wouldn't be mowing or next to a sign.
Good.
So
I think your
Put
sign.
them in the middle of 199. They never mow there.
Ooh, ouch.
Well, this past week I was really appalled to see that last week they were picking up the litter and mowing 199. And I thought, this is great, it's going to look good for a while. And I was appalled when I came down 199 today, and the litter is terrible. I just can't believe it. It just breaks my heart.
Mine too.
And I would like to get out there and pick it up, but I'm not able to do that anymore. So, and there's big things too. So, but anyway, I feel like that I'm doing the things that I like to do. I'm doing the things that I hope helps the county. And with the team that we are working with, I think we've got a great team going on. And I just still need somebody from Powhatan. I know.
Need help, Powhatan people.
Well, thank you for. Does anybody else have any questions?
I don't know, Miss Sadler's.
Sadler?
Yes, Peg. Hey, Peg. Thanks so much for being here tonight and for sharing your success stories. You and your team do an amazing job, and you're all an inspiration to all of us. But Peg, you hold, my heart. I love you, lady, and you're doing an amazing job. We cannot thank you enough for everything you're doing. The signs are great, and I'm hoping and praying that's going to help get the message out to everybody. So thanks for all you do, always.
Welcome. Thank you. Well, thank you for allowing us to bring this presentation to you and for your support and all that you've been doing to help us out. But I want to leave you with this reminder. Stewardship Hour is next Thursday at 6:30.
This Thursday
Oh,
at 5:30.
this 30. I'm losing days here.
We all
Thursday
are.
at 6:30. Is that right?
5:30.
5:30. And she can let you.
The information will be is always on the Facebook, the county Facebook. But then if you don't catch the live Zoom meeting, the recording of the Zoom will be distributed also. So no worries if you can't make it at 5:30.
And I'm going to challenge all of you now to remember the Litter and Recycling Expo. We're going to have it at War Hill High School. Mr. Stevens gave me the go-ahead, so we're
Space it out. Yes, ma'am.
we're spacing it out. We have the same as we had last year, the shredding, Gone for Good shredding company, the Restore company, the Goodwill, and we have the paint, CVEC paint company, or that's a long thing, but they're doing paint recycling, latex paint recycling. And it's in conjunction with the hazardous chemicals, household things. It's the same time. And so we may have an engine repair, a small engine repair person there, to either pick up things you want to discard, or you want, maybe he can tell you how to fix it or whatever, and much more. And so hope to see you all there. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you've done for us.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay. Our next presentation is the 911 Migration Chief Ash.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So back in 2017, we came to one of the work sessions and discussed emerging technologies in public safety. And one of those we discussed was our transition to next generation 911. So I'm back this evening to just kind of talk about a little bit about our migration here in James City County, funding, and kind of what our next steps are. The first I thought I would do was review, before we talk about what's next generation 911, I thought it would be nice to review a little bit of how the current system works. So what we're talking about here is not our call handling equipment once we receive the call in the 911 center and how we process it, but really the avenue that the person dialing 911 delivers that message to the 911 center. So the conduit or those lines that deliver that. So today in Virginia, that's 9 independent networks. And the one that services our region has 2 locations, one in Newport News and one in Portsmouth. So you pick the phone up and dial 911, it goes out to Washington, D.C. and to New Jersey. One provides the number, one provides the location, does a handshake, comes back to Newport News and Portsmouth, and it does all of that in like 3 seconds. So it's pretty amazing how quickly it processes that. And it routes it to the correct 911 center based on that. And that's used primarily for voice calls. The first 911 call was made in 1968. So as you can imagine, the technology is very old. Again, it's primarily for voice calls, and it's really an analog circuit-based. We think of copper wires as a telephone system. So the challenges to that is, one, it's legacy technology that's reached its end of life. Our current provider, Verizon, that provides a 911 service, is getting out of the 911 service business. So we're moving away from copper phone lines and heading to a different network. It really has some limited data processing capabilities, primarily as only the phone number and the location or the address of the caller. With an increasing use of wireless devices nationwide, wireless 911 calls are about 70 to 80%. We're a little lower than that here in James City, but we see that increasing each year. And of course, there's a development of so many other smart technology devices, things like Alexa and Google Chrome and Google Assistant, refrigerators, and all those things that are all powered by smart technology that have the ability to dial 911. All complicate that system when your whole 911 system is based primarily on a phone and a voice system. So what's the answer to that? The answer is to transition to next generation 911, which creates a common and dedicated 911 IP-based network. So we're talking cloud-based system, redundant servers. It's all fiber optic cable instead of the copper wire. It's going to allow for all types of emergency calls, and those could be including things we talked about, the smart devices calling, the ability to receive photos, texts, videos, all into the 911 center. We are one of the localities that's been able to receive text messages for a number of years, although not very common. We have received some of those. But Next Generation 911 opens the doors for people to be able to send actual footage from a scene or a still photo and be able to receive those within the 911 center. Today, the ability to transfer that data isn't there. Even though our call handling equipment can receive it, the medium to deliver it to the center is not available, and this system provides that. It also provides some enhanced redundancy between centers. So primarily, again, with its phone line based, today if we had a 911 phone system go down or the wires are cut to a building, coming into our building, something like that, we lose some of that redundancy. We, for a number of years, have had an automatic hot backup with York County, and we connect that through our radio system, but many centers have to go through a complicated process with Verizon to transfer the 911 calls over to another center. We moved to Next Generation because we're all on a common network. It's much easier to have a redundant center. So if one goes down, you can transfer that data or transfer those calls over to another one automatically. Also allows the emergency communications officers and dispatchers to transfer calls to other localities. Sometimes we'll receive a call and say, I'm trying to get in touch with someone in Northern Virginia or the 911 center in Northern Virginia. And today we end up transferring them to a 10-digit normal administrative line to try to connect them. With this, we have the ability to transfer those 911 calls around a little more than we have in the past. So really think of it as like everything else we see moving to a cloud-based. We're taking the copper phone lines, moving to fiber optics with a cloud-based solution that's dedicated for 911. So specifically in Virginia, Virginia developed a proposal through VEDA, and now that section of VEDA has moved over to the Virginia Department of Emergency Management that provides the 911 and the wireless board. They went out and seeked contracts for who's going to provide the Next Generation 911 service. In Virginia, there's 2 contracts. One that was done through Fairfax County, and then the City of Virginia Beach did a separate RFP, and both contracts were awarded to AT&T. So Virginia developed migration proposals for each jurisdiction. In those, it includes information about the 911 or the Next Generation 911 solution through AT&T, They also evaluate all of our current systems to see what improvements you would need to make in-house to be able to accept that. As I said earlier, our equipment was already next generation 911 capable, so we're ready to receive that information as soon as it's available. There was a few minor tweaks that the funding that we'll talk about next provides to change. And then they really give us the description, the network redundancy. So they'll be providing 2 fiber optic connections within the 911 center to offer redundancy, and they describe how the cloud-based system works for us. And again, those are specific to each jurisdiction. And the Code of Virginia requires us to make this migration by July 1st of 2023. So while we have to opt into the program, it's really not optional. At some point, the copper lines aren't going to work anymore, so we have to do this transition, and now's the time. The project's been running statewide, quite a bit delayed, so we're about a year, maybe 18 months behind where I think Virginia thought we would be. Right now, Fairfax County has transitioned over, and they're using Next Generation 911, and they'll be looking to finish out the rest of Northern Virginia, and then hopefully Hampton Roads will be the next after that. So funding, obviously the transition comes with some cost. It's estimated based on the preliminary proposals that it'd be a little over $216,000 to transition to the Next Gen 911. The majority of that for us is the fiber optic cable coming into the 911 center. And then some of it, a minor amount, was to upgrade a few of our call handling equipment interfaces. That's fully funded by the 911 Services Board. They call it a grant, but we really don't accept it because they're going to pay AT&T directly. Although there may be some costs where they give us the money, we'll have to come back before the board to accept those funds and then pay for that directly. But the majority of it, as we work through this over the next year, they'll be paying to the vendors directly. Where our cost comes in is really in the estimated monthly reoccurring costs. So right now we pay about $2,800 a month for 911 service. And again, that's for the phone lines coming into the building and the processing of the information. That's going to $11,156 a month estimated. So James City County will be responsible for the $8,200 increase monthly after a period of 24 months. So once we go live on Next Generation 911, the Virginia 911 Services Board will pay another 24 months. We'll continue to pay our $2,800. They'll pay the difference for that 24-month period, and then we'll have to take over the full portion of those recurring costs. So for us specifically, that's our biggest funding concern, is taking over those monthly costs. We say all these are estimated because they based a migration proposal on the contract with AT&T back in 2016. Clearly, technology changes from 2016 till now. So after this meeting, we'll talk about the next steps. Next, we'll move into a different phase of the project where they'll narrow down and give us all the specifics, and hopefully we'll find that number a little more accurate. And I'm hoping it comes down, but of course, there's always that chance that it doesn't. So we'll know more in the coming months specifically about that.
Is now an okay time to ask questions?
Sure.
So that's big. I mean, I understand the why and everything, but what's the how? How are we going to fund that? And you're hopeful it goes down. What's the chances that it might go up? And then technology changes in 24 months as well. So what if something, they say, well, you got to do this when their time is up, that drives that cost up even more.
Sure. So yeah, and I think because in Virginia, everything is really an estimation and a proposal at this point, except Fairfax County. We don't really have enough jurisdictions that have adopted it to know this is what the actual cost ended up being. So to tell you today what that will look like, I'm not totally sure. So the next steps for us is we sign a participation agreement. So we're not entering a contract because we're not actually exchanging funds for the service, at least initially. We're signing a participation agreement to go on to the Fairfax contract to move forward with the process. And from there, we'll actually have AT&T come in. They'll do a little bit further evaluation, determine what those actual costs are, especially for the fiber optic cable and those types of things, and really narrow down at least the equipment cost to get there. And then during that process, we also believe we'll be able to narrow down that reoccurring cost kind of amount. So at this point, you asked about funding. It would be something we'd be looking to include in our budget request 24 months after go live. We're expecting right now it'll probably be third quarter of next year is the estimated time for us to go live. So between now and basically this time next year, they'll be working through the final proposals and working through all the equipment. And again, the biggest part for us happens to be getting the connections into the 911 center. Some localities, they're actually having to upgrade their call handling equipment. There's a locality not too far from us that's their cost is about 1.4 million to come on, again, funded by the services board. So we're lucky on that side that our equipment we've kept up with about every 5 years, upgrading our call handling equipment. So we're next generation capable. So I'd like to tell you, I know for sure those costs are ready, but I'm not sure yet. I'll feel better. We'll come back in the next few months.
8,292. Who does that go to?
So that would be to AT&T.
So is always makes me wonder, and I know something's needed, something that we're gonna have to do, and it's another one of the unfunded mandates that this board loves to get. But is AT&T building the network on our back, or are they supplying something? I mean, for that kind of money, it's almost like it's feeling like AT&T is going in and saying this is the next thing we need to do, promoting it, not necessarily AT&T, but somebody's promoting it, and somebody's saying this is what you need to do. We definitely have to keep up, but are they using our funds to build a network and the iCloud and everything that's needed for this? And if more, and the second part of the question would be, the more people that get involved in this, will the cost go down?
Cost go down, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that today. So really, Next Generation 911, the conversation started in 2001 following 9/11 about communications as a whole across the United States. FirstNet was a big part of that discussion. You've probably heard of FirstNet, some dedicated public safety, data transmission, things like that. So the kind of the catalyst for the Next Generation 911 is really part of that FirstNet discussion. There are, as I understand, some federal dollars that went into these projects, because what we're talking about specifically in Virginia, the same thing is occurring in all states, and it'll really be, the idea is it's a nationwide network. What share of the AT&T, this was a competitive contract that AT&T was awarded. What share is federal dollars? I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but I know that was a nationwide effort to move to the EZNet.
And this is through, I know you stated earlier, Fairfax and Virginia Beach. So this would be through Fairfax, not Virginia Beach.
Right. So the two, so Fairfax did their contract back in 2016. Virginia Beach last year wanted to shop it out to make sure that it was the best contract, and also concerns about equipment being the need to update, is what was quoted in 2016 compared to today. So Virginia Beach went back out, did an RFP for a competitive process, and again, AT&T was awarded that contract as well. The terms of the equipment and things very similar. It's the newest version. Really, the only thing difference between the two contracts is the terms and conditions. So we've had them evaluate. Mr. Kinsman's office has looked through that information, and we believe the Fairfax contract is the best one for our terms and conditions.
And if Fairfax gets each person to join, does their cost go down?
Don't believe so, but I'll have to look into that.
That's what I'd be curious if the more they get, are we paying for part of Fairfax's? Fairfax is a rich community. Are we paying for part of Fairfax's part of this plan? I know that communication's always very important. When we started with low band with fire service and couldn't get out, we couldn't get out buildings, and we've upgraded, and we spent a ton of money, and we're going to continue, I think, to the end of time, spending a ton of money on communication. It just seems like that's the way it is. But I'd really be interested to know what they're going to do with $8,292 a month for 911. I know I pay it. All these other members do too, and the general public. In our, cell phone use, that's part of our phone use period. We're paying into the 911 system already, and now we're going to have to budget another, $100,000 in a year plus to have a system, in place now, not including all the other stuff we're already paying.
And we do receive a portion, a little over $200,000, if I have my numbers correct, a year comes to us from 911 funding from the state. And I believe that's a portion of what's included on telephone bills. That's how that's funded.
Oh, so that is already utilized at this point. So
I believe Ms. Day probably counts it in on the
right
on the revenue side of the budget
yeah.
to help make things balance.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Chief.
You have a question? Sue, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Chairman, I just wonder if since there will be this sort of startup cost for most localities that will be paid out of the 911 fund, over time, you would think that that fund would then have resources available for other purposes. And so is this something we maybe want to put on our legislative agenda to ask the General Assembly to make sure that some of that funding offsets the increased cost to the localities?
I think that's a great point. And we do receive funding from them, which we should be back in October to accept a grant. It's a $2,000 grant we get annually for PSAP education, primary answering point education. And then they also provide other grants. So when we get ready to upgrade our call handling equipment and those things, we typically apply for grants from that same fund to help offset. But that's a good point about legislative.
Chief Ash, I think we interrupted you, so you want to finish up your presentation?
No, that's okay. No, I was just saying the next steps for us is we wanted to make sure you were okay with Mr. Stevens signing the participation agreement for us to really kickstart that more formal review of our equipment and narrow down those costs. It's the next step for us. So we don't have to do a contract award, but we do need to have Mr. Stevens sign a participation agreement. And then we're on track right now. If you ask them today, when do you think we'll be done? Against third quarter of next year, so about a year from now. And we'll provide any updates along the way if that gets delayed.
Chief, one more about signing the agreement. That's not signing the contract. That's just moving things further to get more information. Or does that lock us into signing a contract later?
So I don't believe we ever have to sign the actual contract because the state is entering into the contract with them. So it's a little bit convoluted. And the contract was awarded, the RFP and everything was done through Fairfax or Virginia Beach. The state's paying the company for it. We have to sign the participation agreement. We may get some money from the state for portions of it that the state doesn't want to pay directly to the vendors. So we've asked lots of questions along the way. So I think the things that we know for sure is AT&T is the vendor. For sure we have to do it. And we know that the next step for us has to be sign the participation agreement to get those more formal evaluations done. We believe the bulk of it will be paid directly to AT&T by the state, and we don't have to enter into that contract. But again, there could be a small portion. It may not even be enough dollar amount to require the board to award the contract because it's likely to be small infrastructure things within the center. But I don't know exactly. So we're hoping that we'll really answer a lot of these questions. After we enter the participation agreement and we've formally entered the process, there's a kickoff meeting where we can really, and I'm hoping to hammer down a lot of those questions that you haven't, we have as well. So
one more.
Mr. Hipple, if I may, I went back and I can't remember what exactly was accepted or what wasn't. I went back and forth with, I guess it was AT&T a lot over a particular clause in there that I wanted to give the board an out. And if I remember right, some form of the non-appropriations clause was included in there. So even if we agree to do the participation, the board doesn't choose to appropriate the money for it, then you're automatically out.
One other question, and I'll let you go. The cost, did they determine the monthly cost on the volume of calls or the amount of citizens we have in our community?
So I don't believe it takes either one into consideration. I believe it's kind of like a cell phone bill. You're signing up for a subscription or for the service. If you use your cell phone all day or once a day, you pay that same rate, at least on an unlimited plan. I realize there's new plans now that are data specific, but it's where you're signing up for the service. And I don't believe those are adjusted by numbers of calls or numbers of citizens.
Okay, because I was just wondering with some of the other localities how it would compare. You know, would it be the same cost if Williamsburg did it compared to what ours we're doing it in Williamsburg? Would the cost would be the same, or how would they figure out, you know, the volume? I guess it would have to be on volume as far as usage and what they're asking for a charge to use that service. If you could check on that, I appreciate it. Thanks.
But if you feel this is a very positive move, even with the additional cost, it will make a difference.
Right. So like anything we talk about, we always ultimately get to the funding part of that discussion. But the capabilities this offers in the future are tremendous for us to keep up with the smart technologies and things that are moving. One of the things we've talked with you before about is wireless 911 calls. So this example I described earlier was if you call 911 from a landline, you have your phone line registered with an address and a phone number, and they use that information. When you call from a wireless device, it first uses the cell tower location based on sectors to route the 911 call to the right center. And I think by FCC guidelines, it has to do that within like 6 seconds. A lot of times the GPS location of the cell phone isn't available till closer to 20 seconds. So that's what happens when we get misrouted calls at times. Next Generation 911 doesn't correct that problem, but it does offer the pipeline so that when cell phone technology and cellular equipment at the tower sites have the ability to route that data to us earlier in the process, we'll be able to receive it. So we believe that ultimately down the road, it'll also help fix some of the 911 call routing when dialing from a cell phone that we deal with here, especially with the way our line runs through the sort of triangle. So it's an opportunity for that. So I think there are a lot of benefits to this. Unfortunately, that comes with a monthly recurring cost. And standing up here, there's several questions you've asked, and I haven't known the answer to those. And we've had many of those same questions ourselves. And I hope I hope we will find the answer to those questions as we get a little bit further through this process. At this point, we don't believe we really have an option, especially if at some point Verizon's going to stop providing the 911 lines.
That was when I was going to ask about it. Basically, we have to do this. The state's basically made a decision that it's going to happen, and that it's obviously going to happen through AT&T, and so it's really a matter of trying to figure out how we can perhaps address some of the recurring costs that we're going to deal with back down the line. Well, yeah.
That's right.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Next is our public comment. We have no speakers for public comment. We have consent calendar. On our consent calendar tonight are 10 items. We have minutes adoption for last month's work session and regular meeting. Number 2 is dedication of Columbia Drive. Number 3 is grant award for Life return to localities fund $70,863. Number 4 is grant award Virginia Fire Programs Fund $255,286. Number 5 is grant award radiological emergency preparedness $30,000. Number 6 is grant award HUD CARES Act Round 2 administrative funds $26,718. Number 7 is contract award dispatch console furniture replacement. Number 8 is confirmation of August 3rd, 2020 declaration of a local emergency and August 5th, 2020 ending of local emergency. Number 9 is grant award coronavirus aid relief and economic security relief funds, $6,676,337. And number 10 is grant award coronavirus aid relief and economic security election funding, $69,748. So it's 10 items on the consent calendar. I'll look for a motion for approval of consent unless somebody wants to pull one.
So moved.
Okay, a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. All right. That takes us over to our public hearings. And for our public hearings this evening, for the appropriate ones, we have Planning Commission representative will be Mr. Frank Bolster, right up front. We will start with our first public hearing, readoption of an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government. Mr. Kinsman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's hard to believe, but it's been almost 6 months since we adopted our emergency continuity of government ordinance. As you recall from April of 2020, these ordinances are only effective for 6 months. This particular ordinance allows many of your subordinate boards and commissions to operate remotely, and I participated in my first remote planning commission meeting, and that's how they're allowed to do that. So though the board is still meeting here in person, all of your others are not. And we're able to do that through your continuity of government ordinance. The pandemic is still going on, and I don't know that they want to come back and be present just yet. So I recommend that you readopt your ordinance, which will put another 6 months on it and take us out through April 2021. I recommend that you adopt the attached ordinance, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Ms.? Okay. Thank you. We'll open the public hearing. Do we have a speaker's announcement? We'll close the public hearing and look to the board for a motion. Motion for approval. We have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Number 2, an ordinance to amend and reordain James City County's Code Chapter 16, Section 16-22, metal detecting. Mr. John Carnifax.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You have a memo and a resolution before you to amend ordinance section 16-22 related to metal detecting in county parks. Just to refresh your memory, back in January, we amended it from the previous, which stated no metal detecting for any reason on any county park. After we amended that, the board receives, and I received, some concerns from citizens. So in February, we held a public meeting, gathered some input. About approximately 33 people attended. Overwhelmingly, the majority of the folks in attendance were opposed to the ordinance the way it was written. There were many different concerns, but I summarized it by saying that they felt like it was too broad. It allowed the director too much authority to allow metal detecting in parks. To go back a little further, this started several years ago. The board members and myself got some requests from metal detectors about using the beach and other areas. I was asked to see what other communities are doing. So I modeled that one after what other communities were doing. Since then, I've modified it to give it a little bit less. It only would allow metal detecting under the supervision of staff or an archaeologist that was performing work on a county park. So nobody could go out there as they have been at the beach during the fall and winter using the beach. So that would eliminate that. I know you have a couple speakers here tonight. I also received 2 emails today, one saying they would recommend to the board that they delay this decision to a later date so they could have time. And the other was upset that we were not going to allow them to use the beach anymore unsupervised. So those were the 2 emails I've received to date. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you have right now, if I can.
Questions? Yeah, one question I had for you is, in the intervening time since we originally put this ordinance into position, what has been the metal detecting traffic?
We've had, well, I can't, since it was unsupervised, I couldn't tell you the exact number of people, but I know for sure at least 4 people have been out there several times, prior to April 1st, when it was not allowed after April 1st at the beach. So we've had no metal detecting since April 1st on the beach site, and that was the only place we were allowing it, was on the man-made beach at Jamestown Beach. Those 4 individuals sent me pictures of what they acquired out there, and it mostly was trash, some coins, debris. And so that's all I can tell you factually, is that I know 4 individuals have been out there multiple times, but there could have been more.
Any other questions? Okay.
Not at this point, maybe after the public hearing.
I'm sorry?
Maybe after.
After the public
Yeah.
hearing? Yeah. Okay. All right. We will open the public hearing, and I have 2 speaker cards. We will ask Ethel Eaton. And if you would, please state your name and address, and then your timing is on the lights up there. You've got 5 minutes.
Can you hear me through my mask?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. My name is Ethel Eaton. I live at 138 The Main in the Berkeley district. I'm an archaeologist and I support the change in the amendment. The concern for Jamestown Beach is that it is within a listed archaeological district, the Governor's Land, which is listed on the National Register. And a member of your historical commission, Ellen Outlaw, has written an extensive explanation of the potential for additional archaeological sites which are there and which could be affected by metal detecting. Not because the metal detectorists want to destroy archaeological sites, but digging has that potential. So requiring that any metal detecting be done under the supervision of county staff. It was brought up that some metal detecting is needed in playgrounds to retrieve dangerous things. That is perfectly understandable. Or if it is done under the supervision of a professional archaeologist, it can contribute to our knowledge of the archaeological sites. Thank you for offering me the opportunity to comment.
Our next speaker is Mr. Thomas Davidson.
I'm Tom Davidson. I live at 138 The Main. I just want to comment on the general issue of metal detecting. I want to make the point that from a point of view of a place, James City County, that has a long tradition of protecting historical and archaeological resources. This is just very bad optics to have metal detecting unless under the strictest sorts of control. I mean, it seems like a minor issue. It's not. It's the sort of thing that could have impacts in the future on things like grants and such like that. And you should probably think carefully when this issue comes up. I know it seems small, but frankly, in the eyes of a lot of the professional community, it's not. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have no more public speakers. I'll close the public hearing and look to the board for discussion. Do you have any more questions of staff?
I don't think I have any questions. I just would say that it did give me pause, and I probably should have spoken up more the first time just because we are in a very historical, but I know that we had a lot of pressure to allow it. And so I guess the only question I would have for Mr. Quarterpath is, given what we've just heard, and this is going to be some supervision by county staff, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So how confident are you in that? I mean, it's not going to be you. I don't think you're going to be able to run down there.
I was dumping trash cans on Sunday at the beach, so don't say it wasn't me. I might
Okay.
be there. But
well,
yeah.
and I don't mean, just know you're really busy. So, but I appreciate your can-do attitude. But I mean, are there archaeologists that might be willing to also go with a staff member, or do you think that an archaeologist and a staff member can talk and
Well, what I'm envisioning happening with this is that, playgrounds was mentioned, and clearly, or athletic fields. We've done that before on athletic fields when somebody's been cut or something. So there are times that we have used them in the past and violated our ordinance. And usually we would get either a volunteer that we knew had a metal detector or something to go out there, and to do that. So we would continue that kind of approach. But also if we wanted to, say after the season or before the season at the beach, we could work with our local metal detectors and say, can you come down there Saturday morning at 7 o'clock? Can you bring 2 or 3 people and sweep the beach? Bring all you find to our staff person there. If there's anything that remotely looks like, which there's not been anything found, that remotely looks like an artifact, Of course, our staff member would retain it. We would get it to somebody on the historical commission or somebody else to validate whether it was anything of significance. If not, we would return it to the person that found it that day. And that was our thought process in doing this. And possibly some other area. I don't envision it happening, but if we were going to develop a site in the future, let's say Brickyard Landing, and when we've acquired that piece of property, and we're doing a phase 1 archaeology right now. We'll start soon on that entire 119 acres. So we already do the studies that we're supposed to do, but if there's a need to have someone go out there with a metal detector, either a staff or the archaeologist or the firm that's doing the study, that would be able to accommodate and assist them. So,
all right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the adoption of the ordinance.
Stevens, we have a motion. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we are now down to Ordinance 19-0010, zoning ordinance amendments to address the keeping of bees in residential districts. Ms. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. On October 8th, 2019, an initiating resolution was adopted directing staff to address beekeeping in residential and agricultural districts. The keeping of bees is currently permitted in A1 general agricultural, R6 low density residential, and R8 rural residential. Therefore, staff proceeded with researching beekeeping as a use in residential districts. Since mixed use has the potential for both commercial and residential uses on a property, it was not included in this analysis. Accordingly, staff analyzed neighboring locality regulations as well as the Virginia Department of Agricultural and Consumer Services Best Management Practices and Chapter 44 of the Virginia State Code. The Policy Committee directed staff to develop performance standards based on the BMPs of the state of Virginia and the regulations in Albemarle County's zoning ordinance. The draft ordinance was reviewed in a series of policy committee meetings. At its May 14th meeting, the policy committee unanimously recommended approval of the draft ordinance to the Planning Commission with a recommendation to review the use in commercial districts. At its July 1st meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the ordinance amendment to the Board of Supervisors by a vote of 7-0 with a recommendation to review the use in commercial districts as well. There is an initiating resolution that will be presented tonight to allow staff to begin this review. Staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors approve the ordinance amendment in your packet tonight. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Sadler, any questions?
No, thank you.
We have Planning Commission rep. If you would come up, Mr. Bolster, and give us the Planning Commission's deliberation on this.
Good evening, everybody. The zoning ordinance amendment to address the keeping of bees in the residential neighborhoods. This was my first case as a member of the policy committee. And from a process perspective, the policy committee met 3 times with Mrs. Costello in the formulation of the ordinance. As Ms. Costello said, the performance standards are based on the best management practices of the state of Virginia and regulations out of the Albemarle County zoning ordinance. I would be remiss if I did not mention the active participation of Mr. Michael Garvin, president of the Williamsburg area Beekeepers Association. It was Mr. Garvin that informed us that beekeeping was being already allowed in the commercial area of the city of Williamsburg, and specifically the Silver Hand Meadery on Monticello Avenue, and that many other urban areas have beehives on the rooftops of their businesses. Planning Commission voted 7-0 for approval of the ordinance with a recommendation of the board to initiate considerations of beekeeping in all zoning areas. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers on this one, Mr. Stevens? Close the public hearing and look to the board for a motion.
Motion for approval.
approval. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hippel,
Aye.
Ms. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Larson,
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan,
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next is ordinance ORD 20-0003, consideration of amendments to the zoning ordinance regarding inoperative motor vehicles and oversized vehicles. Mr. Parrish.
Evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Supervisors. The proposed zoning ordinance amendments before you this evening was deferred from the July 14th Board of Supervisors meeting. This deferral was requested to amend the proposed language to limit the number of inoperable vehicles that could be screened by view with covers. Staff has incorporated changes to reflect that no such inoperable vehicle may be shielded or screened from view by covers when kept outside of a fully enclosed building or structure. Staff believes this change and the addition will enhance the visual character of the community, reduce the number of inoperative vehicles, and better address citizens' concerns and complaints. Staff recommends the Board of Supervisors approve the resolutions as provided, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Sadler, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
And this one does not have the planning commission, so I will open the public hearing and no speakers. We'll close the public hearing and look to the board.
I'll move the motion.
Okay.
And I want to thank you very much for your additional work.
Stevens, we have a motion. Please call the roll.
Ms. Larson,
Aye.
Ms. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan,
Aye.
Mr. Hippel,
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Number 5, SUP 20-0008, 7-Eleven convenience store and gas with gas pumps and drive-through restaurant at Quarterpath. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Mr. Mark Richardson of the Timmons Group has applied for a special use permit to amend, supersede, and replace SUP-0016-2016. This SUP allows for the construction of approximately 2,940 square foot 7-Eleven convenience store, which sells and dispenses fuel, and approximately 4,000 square foot fast food restaurant with a drive-through. The parcels are located at 7327 and 7337 Pocahontas Trail. The development currently on the site is the 7-Eleven and gas station. The parcels are zoned B1 general business and are designated mixed use by the 2035 comprehensive plan. A convenience store which sells and dispenses fuel is especially permitted use in the B1 zoning district, and drive-through restaurant that generates over 100 peak hour trips requires a commercial SUP. Master plan and building sizes have not changed compared to the previously approved SUP, and therefore the traffic study is still valid, with the recommended improvements being incorporated into the SUP conditions presented with this application. Staff finds the proposal to be compatible with surrounding development and consistent with the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance. On August 5th, 2020, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this application by a vote of 5-0. Staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors approve this application subject to the conditions in the resolution presented tonight. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is also available. Thank you.
Questions?
This is already operating.
7-Eleven this is just to extend the time period on the SUP. And also then if something were to happen, it will not affect the SUP for the 7-Eleven.
This 7-Eleven actually has the gas pumps already there. It's just this is just for the drive-through part that they haven't built.
Yes.
Right, any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll bring Mr. Holster back up.
The SUP for this proposal was previously approved by the board on October the 10th, 2017. And the gas station and the convenience store are open and functioning. The application is about an extension of for the commencement of construction for the drive-through restaurant within that 36-month period. And if you see the two parcels there, the one to the left is where that convenience store would come in, and the entrance to it would be not off of the main road, but off the connecting road that goes to the hospital. There was no discussion by the commissioners on the application, and the commissioners recommended approval with a vote of 5-0. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Frank. Hey, we will open the public hearing. No speakers on this one. We'll close the public hearing. Go to the board.
I would just say that, sometimes traffic can get bottlenecked up on there, but as there is already that 7-Eleven is already there, plus it does offer another alternative to people who have loved ones in the hospital. There's not a whole lot that way, so that's the only thing I have to add.
Push for approval. We have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call a roll.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Vice Howard.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Our last public hearing is SUP 20-0009, 3303 Rochambeau Drive Tourist Home. Mr. Holt.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you very much. I'm standing in for Mr. Meadows, who is under the weather today, so I'll do my best to muddle through. Apologize in advance. Miss Ivy Brothers has applied for a special use permit to allow for the short-term rental of an existing 4-bedroom home located at 3303 Rochambeau Drive. Property is zoned A1, General Agricultural, designated low-density residential on the comprehensive plan, and is located inside the primary service area. Short-term rental tenants would use an existing parking area located on the property. No changes to the home's footprint or site are proposed. Staff considered the home's existing residential character, location along a major collector road, on-site parking availability, and on-site existing screening to all be favorable factors in the evaluation of this application. Staff is recommending conditions which are intended to mitigate the impacts of the use and preserve the residential character of the home. Such conditions include limitations on the number of rooms rented and the total number of rental occupants per stay. Staff finds the proposal to be consistent with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan and compatible with surrounding development. Staff recommends the Board of Supervisors approve this application subject to the conditions found in your staff reports. At its July 1st meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this application by a vote of 4-3. Since the PC meeting, Ms. Brothers has amended the application to confirm that she will live in the home during the rentals. Also, since the July PC meeting, staff has received several letters of support for this application, which have been included in your agenda packets, including one received most recently this past weekend, which was forwarded to you earlier today. No letters of concern or opposition were received. This time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and the applicant is available as well this evening. Thank you.
The only question I had at the beginning was about the residency, because I know that we have turned down others where people were not going to be living. So that was going to give me pause. But if the applicant is going to be staying there for sure, okay.
She has confirmed that and has amended the application for that. Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Holt? Okay. Bolster?
Concerns expressed by the commissioners ran along the same lines that have been expressed in past hearings on short-term tourist homes over the last 2 years. Those concerns reinforce the board's directive to the staff and planning commission to review short-term tourist homes in the Engage 2045 comprehensive update. Discussions by commissioners were about concerns about approving a short-term tourist home because the SUP runs with the land in perpetuity, concerns about the effect of short-term rentals on the number of homes that are not owner-occupied, stock of affordable housing, and the hotel industry, concerns on the consistency with the comprehensive plan goals of creating jobs with benefits and supporting the hospitality industry. However, there were commissioners that felt that the case meets all of the current criteria, and the commissioners voted 4-3 for approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Okay, thank you. Hey, we'll open the public hearing, and I have one speaker card. Ivy Brothers. Come up.
I really didn't have anything. I was just here for quick.
Could you state your name and the address, and then if you have any questions?
Ivy Brothers, 3303 Rochambeau Drive.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
No, just your assurance that you will be staying at the home.
Yes, I'm working feverishly now for getting the basement ready. I have everything set up.
Okay, that's the only speaker we have, so we'll close the public hearing, and I'll look to the board.
Motion for approval.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. McGlennon?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Ms. Ricenhour?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We now go to board considerations. Initiating resolution to consider allowing beekeeping in non-residential zoning districts. Mr. Kinsman.
Chairman, members of the board, as Ms. Costello and Mr. Polster indicated earlier, there is a desire to study whether or not beekeeping would be a good use in non-residential districts. If that's something that the board would like the PC to take a look at, I recommend that you adopt the attached resolution.
I think it's for Mr.
We discussed in an earlier meeting that we wanted to get this initiated from our resolution, so I think we ought to go ahead and approve it.
Any motion? Okay, we have a motion. Motion for approval. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. McGlennon?
Aye.
Ms. Ricenhour?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We are now down to board requests and directives.
I think I'm going to just say I hope everybody had a good first day of school, whatever it was like. And leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Same. I know this morning, I think it was a little rough. They had some computer issues in WJCC anyway. So I hope they got all of those worked out, and, hope this is a short term, if at all possible, we can get kids back in school, as soon as it's safe to do so. Just wanted to, made a couple of notes, about trash and speeding. Trash, please quit littering. It is ridiculous. We are so fortunate to live where we do. There's plenty of trash cans all around. Carry one in your car, for God's sake. Just throw away your trash. Just don't do it outside. And then speeding. I have been contacted lately. It has picked up, and we don't have school zones right now, but we will have school zones. Very important that people especially observe the speeding laws at every time, but please be cognizant of your speed in neighborhoods. That is where most of the phone calls that I get are concerning. I will say too to residents, use caution, because if you don't have a radar gun, somebody sent me the meme with the lady with the hair dryer to try to get people to slow down in their neighborhood. So she set up her chair and a hair dryer like it was a radar gun. But sometimes you can be off, so don't just assume everyone is speeding. But also, there is an officer at James City County. They have a police. We have a traffic unit who Officer White. I hope he's not mad that I'm giving out his name. But if you have concerns ever about speeding in your neighborhood, call the non-emergency number of James City County Police, 253-1800, and ask to speak to an officer, and they can work with you on different ways to slow down in your neighborhood. Which goes back to the signs, which I am assuming we have somewhere, and how we're working. I know I'm working with Officer Wright right now on, but is there a way for citizen or neighborhoods to request those, or do you know?
Yes, ma'am, there is. And I think the number you gave would get to that. They work through them, or they can call my office and we'll get them headed the right direction. But those are signs we loan that are trying to educate people on slowing down for short periods of time. We have lost some of those signs. We've put them out and had them disappear, but we are replacing, and we'll still try to honor that and be able to have them available.
Okay, because I know a request that I also get when this topic comes up is the one that you can put in your neighborhood that tells you the speed that you're going. But it's really about education, because what will happen is somebody will slow down because their speed's but if they're going to speed, they just speed back up again. So it's really about education and how you just slow down. But anyway, so that's it. Lots of stuff coming up. I'm really excited about Thursday morning. There's a groundbreaking for a new event venue in the Berkeley district out on John Tyler Highway. So I think that's going to be really exciting for our area. And so I'm sure everybody will be socially distanced. And then this Thursday at 2 o'clock, I have my Tourism Council Finance meeting. That is an open meeting. If anybody wants to attend from here, just let me know. And I think it'll probably be Zoom. I don't know if it's in person yet, but I'll be happy to get you all the information. So thank you. Oh, may I say one more thing? I'm sorry. This Friday is going to be a memorial service for Bill Warwick, who was a Berkeley district resident. He and his wife, Lindy. Bill was a long time pastor at the Williamsburg Community Chapel, and he did a lot of things for William and Mary students. He and his wife were very, very involved with the community for a very long time. Bill fought a very valiant fight against cancer, and unfortunately he lost that battle a few weeks ago, but his memorial service is on Friday, and I just want to send my deepest sympathies to his family. Thank you very much.
All right. School days. So we're glad that we're back in school, but we wish we were back in school, not at home. We had a very frustrating day today as not only our community lost all the school connections, Newport News and a lot of the other localities lost them as well. And it's just, I don't think we have the bandwidth to do what we're trying to do. Maybe it should have been tested a couple weeks prior. I know the school's trying to do the best they can do with what they have, but when you say, okay, we can set out some buses to do a hotspot that reaches about 300 foot from the bus. So if you have 3 kids like my wife does with ours, and if you take them, since we don't have the hotspot or the internet, that's a Cox thing, but we're working on that. We're making great progress for James City County with Cox to get that internet to all the students out there. But being that we're the first day, you know, if you have 3 kids on a Zoom meeting in a car next to a school bus to go to school in this century, are you kidding me? Where have we lost it? And not only that, but sitting in the house, 20 times we lost connections at the house using hotspots. And the children are off, then they're back on. Then they're off, then they're back on. Then the system goes down. Then you can't get on. Then the system comes back up. And I know it's everyone's trying to do the best they can with what they have, and I'm not criticizing anyone, but it is amazing with the technology we have. We can put somebody up in space, put them on the moon and talk to them, and I can't talk 20 miles down the road for my children to go to school. And I'm able to talk about this and be able to say something about this because I sit on this board. What I worry about is all the other parents that are out there right now that are sitting there with children and they can't be home. We're very fortunate that my wife, and it was a very stressful day. When I came home to change, to come to this meeting, she wasn't smiling as generally as she normally does. She had a very stressful day, and I know she did. And bless her heart, she's doing an extremely good job with the children and keeping our connections up with the internet. But the parents who have to be at work, the parents that have to do this or have to do that or have to drive to the school bus or to the library or somewhere else, we could do better than this. We're better than this. I'm very disappointed of where we're at, and I'm toning my frustration down because I had a long enough day that I've been able to back it down from where I was going to be. But if we're teaching our children how to educate or educate our children, we're not doing a very good job when we don't have the internet on. I'm not blaming the teachers. Teachers, please don't send me 50,000 emails. I'm not blaming y'all. Y'all are stuck in the middle of this like the rest of us are. But as a community, not as a school board, but as a community, we should be better than this. Hopefully we're going to get Cox. We're this close from getting something signed so we can get the students that are out there that don't have it, that parents have to work, that they have to do something else, and they have to leave their children long enough that they're old enough. Please be careful leaving children at home, but they're old enough to take care of themselves, and they have to get on the internet. But I see also that we have a lot of schools, and I know we have to do social distancing, and we're able to do that all throughout the community except for schools. Seems to be the only spot we can't. I think we can do better than what we've done. And that's as far as I'm going to go on that. And I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm just saying we need to work better as a team. I think we can do better than what we are and what we've done right now. That's my 2 cents, only mine. Thanks, Sarah.
Can I jump back for just one moment and just remind people that that schools serve a huge purpose, and just to bring to our community's attention that yesterday I heard about a story of a young boy who reached out to his teacher because he did not have enough food, and he was panicked because he was not going to be in school to get that food. And that teacher went out to the grocery store and got that young man and his family some food. Our teachers do that daily, on a daily basis. So schools not only serve as a place for learning, and I think that that's a larger conversation, how schools got to be everything that they are. We've done that as a society. But so if there's any way that you can donate to FISH or the Peninsula Food Bank, they provide a backpack program. I know the schools are also doing food drop-offs. I saw something about it on social media last week. And I think they're dropping off to everyone. And I think they're also trying to work out some backpack program for the weekends. So, you know, this is not only a crisis because we can't open schools, and we've got teachers that are trying to, you know, we've got teachers that are trying to do stuff virtually, virtually. Oh gosh.
Try to do it all.
Yeah, I hope can we, that, but yes, everybody's trying to do everything, and it's a lot. And it's also a larger crisis as well right now. So just, if we can just make people cognizant of that, if there's any way people can help, it would be greatly appreciated. So thank you. And you're right about the hots. I mean, I can't imagine driving up and sitting outside a bus to try to get a hot spot for my family. I can't imagine that. And while you are right, your wife is fortunate enough to be able to be home. She also runs a business. And so, you know, this is a lot on schools, families, everybody. And so I hope we're able to get it sorted out. So.
And two, on the food bank, this Friday is the politicians are filling the baskets at the food bank in Hampton.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be out there. I think you're all normally out there with us.
I know. I didn't get a notification.
You didn't?
No.
That's this Friday at 10. I think I'll get it.
Thank you.
I know you're always there.
I am.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Sue?
Yes, thanks. Well, Ruth, I'll echo what you were saying about feeding through some of our neighborhoods. I've been getting some calls from some citizens about the same thing. And so, you know, we're working with some of the community leaders to tamp that down a little bit. So thank you for bringing that up. I'll just echo everything that you just said. I appreciate that. Second of all, the only other thing I have is I just want to take a minute to thank Chris Williams on our staff. He does an amazing, phenomenal job keeping these meetings functional for those of us who need to call in. And I just want to say thank you, Chris. I appreciate your patience and everything you do to help us all be able to participate in whatever way we need to. So thank you. That's it.
So we move to the reports of the county administrator.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, just a couple items. I do want to mention our 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony that will be held virtually this Friday, September 11th, 7 o'clock p.m. by Boy Scout Troop 414. The ceremony will be streamed online with assistance from our James City County media team, James City County Fire Department, the James City Bruton Volunteer Fire Department, and again, it will be live streamed 7 o'clock p.m. this Friday, September 11th. You can do it through our James City County YouTube channel or facebook.com/JCBVFD for more information. So just a reminder this Friday, that's an important event as well. And then just a reminder as usual to all in the community, when you're visiting public spaces or county facilities, to please wear your mask when you're in buildings or in crowded public settings, social distance from others, and then wash and sanitize our hands, as we've heard over and over. So to try to ward off more cases. So that's all I had.
All right, we have now a closed session. I need a motion to enter closed session for two items. Number one is consideration of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussions in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position of the public body pursuant to section 22-3711A3 of the Code of Virginia. And number two, discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community, pursuant to section 2.23711A5 of the Code of Virginia.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. McGlennon?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Hipple?
Aye.
Ms. Rice?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. We're going to close session. We're going to do that right here. Cameras off. certify the closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I move to certify that we only spoke about those items we indicated we would speak about in closed
Okay.
session.
Stevens, we have a motion. Call the roll, please.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We are now looking for a motion for adjournment until 4 p.m. on September 22nd, 2024 work session.
So moved.
Oh. Ms. Larson make the motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.